Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, it's Hump Day, and welcome back to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. For Season 2, we are looking at the film Blazing Saddles 1, Pledge Allegiance to Hedley Lamarr and to the evil for which he stands, minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
I'm your co-host, Walt Murray.
And joining us again, the guys from the Rocky Minute, we've got Doug Greenberg and Jason Haynes. Guys, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you. This has been an amazing, unbelievable show.
All right. So when Jason said hello, he blew out my side of the recording. So I can't even imagine what it looks like on your side.
I was trying to get in there before Doug, because Doug always talks first. I wanted to jump in. He peaked. I'll just say that. He peaked.
So, yeah, microphone technique. When you want to get louder, you actually have to go further from the microphone.
Hello.
And when you want to get softer, you get closer on softer. I know. It's a weird thing. Hey, I've already had to do this twice now. Once with our Patreon show for an episode of Christmas Vacation, and once already for Blazing Saddles, where my computer just decided to say, oh, we want you to sound like you're dying underwater and gargling the whole time. And so I have to re-record myself. And so what I'll end up doing, just like you do in when you do ADR work for movies, which is automatic dialogue replacement, where you kind of watch what you're doing and try to match your mouth movement. I literally play myself garbled in one ear of my headset, and then I try to recreate it almost as fast as it's coming in my ear with the same delivery, so I can lay down a very similar track to then go back and mix with everybody else.
That sounds like a nightmare. I would quit podcasting before I did that.
See, here's the funny thing. When you say you went and re-recorded episodes you already recorded, that to me is my nightmare. I'm like, no, we can't recreate that kind of magic. But actually, you guys did. Week 1 of Rocky 2 was freaking hysterical.
Time will tell.
All right. Well, did I already say what happens in this minute? I can't even remember.
I just start over.
No, I didn't. I didn't. That was from
we didn't get past our intros.
Dear God. All right. Hey guys, welcome to minute 78.
Oh, thank you.
We're actually looking at the movie Blazing Saddles, which, by the way, if you join our Facebook page right now in the listeners group, you might actually catch real-time posts during these episodes. So I would highly encourage you to join either Mighty Mix or the Wilder Ride listeners group. You never know what Walt's going to post. We're going to start minute 78 with the crowd gathering in Rockridge and realizing there's a problem. And we're going to end with Hedley Lamarr demanding a pledge of allegiance from all of his ruffians. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. We start off continuing where we were yesterday with really what was a great shot. I think every one of us all agreed. Just the shot composition itself. It was a close-up of all of our main characters, including our hero Bart and the Waco Kid. And we immediately start this minute with the long shot again, only this time the camera is pulling back. And actually, this is a film technique that I don't like. They're zooming in, or in this case, they're doing a reverse zoom, because obviously with all the brush in the way, they can't do a true dolly out, which is normally the camera would keep the focal point fixed, and then you move the focus as you pull back rather than just zoom in and zoom out. But because of all the sagebrush they've added to make it look like this is now the recreated Rockridge, Mel Brooks has no choice but to use the zoom out feature to show the folks all at the far end of the street and the town of Rockridge looking a little different because of all the sagebrush that they put in the middle of Main Street.
I'm also noticing the depth of the buildings that you mentioned last minute, too.
You can tell they're all a lot thicker than what we saw from the behind the scenes shot of that miniature.
Right. So it's not just like a false front.
Right. This is actually still the same town where the bulk of the movie, that when we had any of the outdoor shots of Rockridge, this is still the same southern town built on the back lot of Warner Brothers. Walt, if you remember when we had Jim Dunham, our cowboy historian, on way back at the beginning of this season, he said every major studio, the MGMs, the Paramounts, Warner Brothers, everyone had their own Western town on their lot because for so long, Westerns were so popular as either television shows or movies. They just decided it was better to just build one town and repurpose that town rather than have to recreate it over and over again.
And did he mention, I can't remember, are they just false fronts or are they actually...
He said that they are not very deep. They're deep enough to give the sense of depth the way that you would shoot the angles, but that once you would see actors either enter a door or if they were going to come out, you would have the camera set just such a way that you couldn't tell what was behind the actor, because often what they would do is as soon as they were going to either enter a saloon or exit or enter a hotel or whatever, they would then go to the interior sets into the sound stages where they could control everything for the interior shots.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I laugh at this every single time I watch this movie because it is so ridiculous that they leave all the whatever, that sagebrush or whatever in the middle of the streets and think this is going to be a convincing city. And not only that, but the fact that when you look at the shot previous to this, that it's just the facades, and it's like, well, when they ride up, they're going to see this. So it's just kind of a...
Are you suggesting it's a silly comedy at this moment?
No, that's what's got me confused. Is in a documentary like this, you would think that those guys would see that.
You know what's funny, though? It's one of those things that's sort of if you didn't take and put all that sagebrush and all those little, scrub brushes and everything in the streets, you'd be like, well, they're just shooting this in the streets of Rockridge. But on the flip side, you're asking yourself, well, if you're trying to make it look like Rockridge, why would you leave all this shit thrown in the middle of the street? Mm-hmm. I mean, shouldn't somebody get the mower out?
They're not even going to ride in and pay attention to that. They just want to murder and rape and burn.
Well, that's true. I think visually, Walt, if I was in the audience, 1974, if they hadn't put this brush, I'd be like, you're just using this set. Like I would have been like, oh, this is cheesy. But even though it's cheesy to put all this shit in the middle of the road, I suddenly feel like, oh, okay, yeah, they just rebuilt this town somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Right. It convinces you that this is a town that they just built.
Exactly.
But it's just so ridiculous.
Just come through with a weed whacker.
Yeah, where's the bushwhacker when you need one?
Exactly.
Oh, wait, that's not what it means. We get a great shot here at second number 9. Bart, Waco Kid puts his hand out. Bart lifts up, gives a high five, or a gimme a 5. It's not a high five, it's a gimme 5. And everybody starts doing the, I guess, their version of the French mistake again. They all start dancing around and having a good time. And the music matches it perfectly. They're all, it changes that tone. Jason, you were talking yesterday about how...
Changes to that's like real Western music.
Yeah, but I mean, it becomes much more pomp and circumstance. A lot of horns. It's not just the very slow, very moving kind of, almost like watching a wagon train or something. It becomes very much almost a party version of the Rockridge theme or the Blazing Saddles theme. And then it immediately, just as they're all celebrating, they're all like, we did it. Overnight, we were able to recreate Rockridge. We suddenly shift. Now, I will tell you, before we get to the shift, Walt, this is another example where I think Mel Brooks was fantastic in the editing room. Because according to the script, the second they start cheering, it never moves. It's supposed to just immediately go to, hold on, wait a minute, we got a problem here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was supposed to be one long, continuous scene where Bart realizes, which we'll get to actually later in the episodes, but as of today, just to tell folks that are coming later, it was supposed to stay continuing. They realize there's no people in Rockridge. So keep that in mind, folks, as you're moving forward, a little tease. But once Mel Brooks got into the editing room, he realized it's better to leave at their success and leave the audience thinking, there's no other problem for them to overcome. We'll come straight now to the bad guys and show them getting ready to go ride into Rockridge. Personally, it's a perfect change to the script. I love leaving them cheering to come over here and get this little comic bit of basically swearing in all of these desperados to become part of Hedley's army.
I think it makes more sense from a timeline standpoint to do it this way too. That you can see what the town is doing, and then you go see what the bad guys are doing, and then you go back to see what the town's doing.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. We're going to get this kind of like duality where we come back, we see what they're doing, then we see what the town's doing. Then we realize when we come back to the town, then we see here, we'll come back to the town, then realize the problem. Then we come back to the guys riding in and they realize we've got to buy some time. They create a distraction that buys them time. So it does create a little bit of a tension and it keeps the story moving. It keeps it like you're on the edge of your seat. Like, okay, when are they going to ride into town? Are they going to be able to get it done in time? You know, I think that energy is still there. The pacing of the edit is perfect.
Are you guys also keeping track of the anachronisms in the movie?
The what?
Well, we'll point them out, but we aren't keeping track of them.
You don't have a count going?
Well, not
things
yet.
Things that are out of time.
We've mentioned everything that wasn't for Jason that would not have existed in 1874 that's still in this movie.
The low five that Bart gives Jim.
Oh, that's definitely a 70s movie.
Yeah.
It was actually, what I found was it originated in the 1920s as a symbol of the low five, like the gimme five. Not the high five. The high five was supposedly Dusty Baker invented that in like the 60s or something. But in the 1920s, the low five originated as a symbol of unity among young African Americans. It was also called giving skin or slapping skin.
In the 20s?
In the 20s.
No way.
The 1940s, they started saying, give me some skin. And then it evolved in the black community into variations like five on the black hand side, which means giving skin on the outer part of the hand, or five on the sly, which is a low five behind the back.
It had nothing to do with Stallone?
I see where you would get that confused. The sly.
I like five on the sly. I bet he'd like five on the sly.
I mean, it was Wikipedia. I don't know.
Consider that low five, though. That's just like give me five. That's like
what else would it be? A high five is up here. A low five would be like down by your waist.
It's just give me five.
I have a low five too.
Well, no, but I think it's described as you holding your hand palm up by your waist.
When I do the thing with my wife, I do slap me high, slap me middle, slap me low, too slow. They're in like the middle version of that.
You pull your hand away.
I pull my hand away. So I didn't know there was invention of giving five.
One party extends an open palm face upward about waist level. The other party strikes the palm in a downward swinging motion with their open palm. Low five. Sometimes known as slapping five, give me five, or giving skin. Mm-hmm. The gesture is an antecedent of the high five, which appeared in the 70s.
Now, there you go. See, Walt and Jason, were you taking notes? Because that is how a podcast is supposed to go.
I'll have to remember this for season 3 of Rocky Minute.
Hey, Jason, did you see what I just posted?
Yeah, and as long as we're consistent, we can keep rolling. I 100% love this speech by Hedley Lamarr. And there's going to be an error. I'm going to point out a continuity error. But everything about how dumb these ruffians are, that they don't know what it means to insert their name when he says your name. This is fantastic. This is like Hedley Lamarr in a nutshell. He's trying to do everything so formal and proper and by the numbers, and he's surrounded by a bunch of fucking idiots.
That when he says your name, and that's another like where the voice is off screen, and you're looking at Hedley Lamarr's reaction to it. The eye roll, and he goes, schmucks.
He does. Which, by the way, the schmucks is an ad lib. That's not in the script. He's just supposed to just sort of nod his head and just like sigh. He added the word schmucks.
I love Harvey Korman.
Well, did you know the other comedy that uses that same line from that? No, the I state your name.
State your name. I know I've heard it before.
Animal House, I assume, stole this in 1978 when they were swearing in the pledges.
Yeah, since this came out 4 years before, I'd suggest that this that they may have borrowed it or no. When you steal something but you want to pretend like you were honoring, you say, "Oh no, we're paying homage to the original."
They paid homage to Blazing Saddles, I guess. But they were swearing in the pledges at whatever John Belushi's fraternity was, Animal House, and they said, "I state your name." And they all said, "I state your name," and went through that. But I couldn't remember. I knew that from somewhere and couldn't place it. But finally figured that out today that was from Animal House.
Is it the key to it though? Is you have before you start, you have to say "repeat after me."
Right.
Before we get even to that part, we'll re-examine the repeat after me. It doesn't make sense to put it in here because it's so far into the minute.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point out right off the bat. Walt, I mean, these guys weren't with us when we actually saw the line of desperados that we went through when we had the folks from the Mad Max Minute on. I was wondering about the guys that had the motorcycle bars like in their crotch.
Right.
Because remember, when they're standing in line, they didn't have their horses. And I was like, why is it in their crotch? Is it because they like to drive each other nuts? I don't know. But but now we see them propped up on the horses.
Yeah.
Right around second 21, just to the right of Lyle, or left as we're looking at it, but to Lyle's right. Lyle and Taggart are just looking there in awe at Hedley. And you got these guys with like the bandanas and the shades and the obviously like 70s style, like Latino motorcycle gang.
Yes.
And he's like, hey.
They call these ape hangers, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
These handlebars.
Yep. The big.
They're up by like shoulder level.
Yep. That has to be a really uncomfortable way to ride for very long.
My brother-in-law rides a Harley, and he has ape hangers on his bike, and he is 6'7". So his ape hangers are like about his shoulder level. So for me, if I sat on his bike and held his handlebars, they'd be about 6 inches over my head.
Your arms would be above your head, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's shorter than me, and so he's probably 5'8", 5'9", and he has ape hangers. And every time I see him, these things are, I mean, he looks like an ape. I mean, they're way up there. I just can't imagine how that's comfortable.
I can't imagine it is either.
Ever since I was a kid, and no matter what, seeing just this, talk about anachronistic, but to see it now on top of the horse, like these guys, they got these handlebars on the horse, and the one dude, like the other guy's got his hand in his laps, but the one's got his hands up on the bars, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up, man? Come on, let's go. We got to ride, man."
A couple of vatos.
It's great because everyone behind him in this shot, if you pause it right like at 21, you got Taggart, you got Lyle. Behind them all, you've got cowboys on horses.
Yep.
You got these two guys like in the medium foreground on their horses with the handlebars. It's just so funny.
Well, and I was trying to look through and just see who is still there from that group that was in line. And the only ones I see are the Nazis and those two guys. They don't have the banditos. Oh, I guess the guys that ride the camels, the Arab guys are still there.
You'll get the camels in a second.
Yeah.
You talk about the Nazis. Actually, that's the next shot here at about second 23. This is a big continuity error. Which arm do the Nazis have up, and which arm does the cowboy in the front of the wagon have up?
Their right arms.
They got the right arms up. If we let this roll,
they come back and it's all they all have the left up.
We hear him talk about,
"Now raise your right hand for the pledge."
And then he goes,
"Right."
And then you see the Nazis actually will have their left arms up for the next time and then change to the right. So this edit is actually out of order.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder if they must have never had a shot of them with their left arms up. Or they must have, but I don't know why they show this insert because it doesn't make any sense. They're all got their right arms up. We get the camel jockeys here riding their camels. And then we move right back to a close-up of Hedley Lamarr, who's basically saying,
"Now you will only be risking your lives, whilst I will be risking an almost certain Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor."
It's very meta.
Every time he says it, I just start laughing because it's so out of place from the movie. There was no Academy Award in 1874. There was no film industry in 1874, but it's almost like Mel Brooks' thumb in the eye into Hollywood. Like, "Oh, you want me to make a serious picture? Well, here we go." And he calls out, "I'm going to be almost certainly risking a Best Supporting Actor award." It's awesome.
Well, it's such a great line for his character.
It would have been great if they actually, I wish he was nominated.
Even just for having that line.
Wouldn't that have been funny?
Yeah, just right. Just as like not like the Academy is, has a sense of humor.
No, they do not.
But,
and what's even funnier about if you listen to the intent of this speech is, well, you will only be risking your lives. Like, well, that's so little. I'm actually risking something bigger. Like the Academy Award nomination is so much more important than your lives.
Well, in his mind,
Of course, in his mind, it's Hedley.
Hedley.
Well, I also love his line of,
You are about to embark on a great crusade to stamp out runaway decency in the West.
Yeah. Like we're sick of
Runaway decency.
Let's remind everybody, he's the Attorney General, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer.
and he wants to stamp out, and the runaway decency always gets me. Like we've got this problem of people being decent to each other. So let's just stamp that shit out right now.
It's running rampant. The war on decency starts today.
If you don't address that shit when it starts, it's just going to get out of control. People will start smiling to each other, accepting people for no reason whatsoever. We can't have that.
I can't imagine anything worse than runaway decency.
It's a great, by the way, Hedley Lamarr, Harvey Korman delivering these lines almost exactly as written. The lines are, men, you are about to embark on a great crusade to stamp out runaway decency in the West. You will all be risking your lives while I will be risking an almost certain Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Please all rise and remove your hats for the pledge. So a little bit of a twist, a couple of things that left out and changed, but for the most part, a fairly accurate rendition of what was intended from the script.
Walt, how do you feel about Alan reading from the script?
There was this one podcast I was listening to where they actually read from a book, and it
sounds positively awful.
With all due respect to Alan and podcast book readers, it has its place, but it can get a little cumbersome at times.
Wow. Wait, what?
Hot take.
No,
Did you just kick me in the nuts?
Did you just Jason Haynes him?
The difference is that in this movie, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, the script I think is
Rocky.
It's kind of insightful, and I'm always kind of fascinated by the stuff they drop out of it.
Yeah, now, I will say there is a difference. I'm not saying it's bad, but there is a difference between analyzing the shooting script, which is what they were going to go use to film the movie, versus a novelization, which is often based on the shooting script. Because what happens with a shooting script or with a novelization is they haven't even shot the first roll yet. This is the final version of the script that's being blessed by the studio, the funding department, the casting, all has been set. So now this is what we're going to go shoot. And while they're shooting for 2 or 3 or 4 months, they'll send that same script to someone to write a novelization. So they think, oh, well, this is what's blessed. Obviously, everything's going to end up in the movie. Well, we know, and that's why I love going through it, a lot of times in the script doesn't end up in the movie. Mm-hmm. And so that's why sometimes the novelization's going to be off from what you finally see on screen.
I would go on record as saying that I hate novelizations. I think they are stupid.
Duly noted.
Coming from the guy that was just reposting on Facebook. Gotcha. Good to know.
I got to go on Amazon right now and order the novel for Rocky 3.
Rocky 3.
Is there a novelization for Rocky 3?
I hope not. I bought them all and burned them. I spent $900 today on Rocky 3 novelizations.
$900. That's all it took to find all the novelizations of Rocky 3.
There's 10 million.
And somewhere
versions.
Penguin Publishing's like, quick, get a rerun. Somebody's buying up all the Rocky 3s.
Well, okay. Well, let's shift to your guys' world for a second, the Rocky world. Because have you guys decided to look for the shooting script to see what was different from what they intended for the script to film versus the novelization?
I had a hard time finding the script to Rocky 2. I had one of our listeners sent it to me. So I think he also has Rocky 3. I don't know what version of the script it is.
Because you didn't mention the script, I don't think at all that I remember for Rocky 2.
No, because as I was reading along, the stuff that was in the script was very close to the novelization, so I just chose the novelization.
Thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Well, it wasn't too hard this time to find
the least
script.
Actual thank you I've ever heard.
Very sincere.
There's no sincerity in that whatsoever.
You know what's funny, though? The only novelization of any movie I've ever read is Rocky 2.
Really?
Really?
I read it about a year after it came out, after the movie came out.
No kidding.
I can understand why it's the only one you've ever read that. Because after reading
that
you
pretty
were
much
like,
did it for me.
Never going to do this again.
I think the biggest insight about it that I got from the book was, I think it was when they were it was either when he was in the hospital or on the ambulance ride. No, I take it back. It was during the fight, kind of the fighter's insight into what you're thinking as the fight's going on. I think that part was good. The rest of it, I don't remember being that great.
No, the whole thing was all.
Yeah.
Doug, once again, we show the parallels. I thought it was awesome to be able to show, because the novelization is based on the shooting script. So if you couldn't find the script, you got the next best thing, what they thought was going to be shot on film and put on the screen.
Mm-hmm. I just like going into Rocky's mind and seeing what he was.
But that's not, you're not.
Here we go. We're not having
It's like a vast wasteland.
Exactly.
That's not what movies are about, though. You're watching a movie. You're watching. An actor is portraying what is going through his head on film. He's portraying it to you through his actions, through his words on film. So to say, and then there's some that's left up for you to infer about what he's thinking and what's going on in his head. I don't want to know exactly what's going on in his head. I want to be able to infer my own thoughts of what's going on in his head from watching based on his actions.
Okay, but we're doing a minute-by-minute breakdown of the movie.
Of the movie, not of the book.
Yeah, but the book is based on the movie.
But see, the script, like when you bring the script into a thing that's into a podcast, especially like this minute-by-minute podcast, you bring the script in, there's a lot of things that are different from the script from the movie. So it's interesting to discuss, like, okay, this is what the script said this was going to be about, and this is what they ended up with, and talk about some of the differences, maybe why they went certain things, why certain things were taken out. Mm-hmm. That's interesting talk or whatever. But you're talking about like, it's not minute by minute novelization of Rocky. Like, you brought in the script and now you're bringing another aspect into the thing that was not meant to be.
But how many? It gets more descriptive though. How many times was there like a look that Rocky gives, but then there's like a whole page based on what Rocky's thinking during that look? Why not?
Because if Sylvester Stallone was convincing enough and gave a convincing enough look, I should know what's going through his head based on the look he gave. I don't need you to explain it to me. That's like the look I'm giving you right now. Do you want to just
to read
So for our listeners, we're not in the same room to break up this fight. So,
but
Sorry, guys.
I think that there's an actor does so much to make you believe what they're trying to say, and then there's a little bit for you to infer about what you think, to put your own emotions into it, your own thoughts about what you think they're saying. I don't want to know exactly what he's thinking at that moment. What are you saying exactly? I don't need to know that.
The novelization of this podcast would go something like this. As Doug tried with great contrition and sincerity to get Jason to understand the merits of a script like using the novelization, Jason suddenly suffered from a mental aneurysm and went into a complete state, screaming nonstop.
But people keep when we were going through the season, a couple people came on the show and talked about novelizations. A couple people posted about novelizations. It like just and over again, it was like everybody's explaining what a novelization is. I get what a novelization is. I understand that point. But our listeners are a bunch of over-explaining douches.
Well, let's be clear. Early on, I don't think you did.
No. When it first started, I didn't understand the novelization at all.
Okay,
but I do now.
There were so many times I'm yelling at my radio. I'm like, they've already recorded this like 3 months ago. They don't care.
But I know what a novelization is now. I know what it's based on. I know why it's there. I just don't. To me, I don't want to hear it. Okay. I don't want to know what Rocky's thinking.
I'm gonna buy 2 novels of Rocky 3.
Okay. But the other
Guess
thing I
what
didn't like
Jason's
about it
getting
was
for
that-
Christmas?
I'm gonna have all these novelizations.
Every novelization I
house.
can find.
If there's a novelization for Sweet Home Alabama or Mannequin, please.
I'm going to log into Amazon. I'm going to change my delivery address to Jason's house. And every time I see it, I'm going to say, yeah, bye.
The other thing about the novelization I understand was that the novelization for Rocky 2, as Doug was reading it in his Rocky impression voice, was what was going on in Rocky's mind during the movie, like all these scenes of the movie. And then, so he'd be like, this is what's going on in Rocky's mind. And then he'd be talking about what Apollo's going through, what Apollo's feeling, what's happening to Apollo. And I'm like, if this is fucking what's going on in Rocky's mind, how the hell does he know what Apollo's doing right now? He has no idea. He hasn't spoken to him in months.
I get where it's difficult to understand, having never read a book yourself, that you can switch from first person omniscient to third person. But that happens a lot in what we call books.
I didn't view the novelization as a book. The way that Doug was presenting the novelization was that this is a first-hand account of what Rocky's thinking throughout the movie. And then it was like what Apollo's going through. That wasn't what it was presented as.
I got you. No, there are merits to because what happens often with the novelization is the hired writer has to sort of fill in some blanks, which is not going to ever be shot, but he's using the shooting script for inspiration, which is why I always like to try to find the shooting script, because that's what they were supposedly going to make the movie off of rather than a book.
Now, see, that's interesting to me, the shooting, like the script, like I said before, that's very interesting. I like to see the differences on what the finished product was.
I do believe that you killed me throughout season 1 for reading from the script. So I don't want to hear that shit either.
I don't know that that's necessarily the truth.
Well, no,
Really?
Doug,
If
here's
only
Doug,
it
here's
were-
what happened. He needed to be shown that it could be far worse than what he thought for season 1. So go back to the shooting script for season 3.
No, I really upped the ante for season 2, and I have to find something that'll drive him even more crazy for season 3.
Well, apparently the novelization of Sweet Home Alabama may do that, according to the reviews on Goodreads.com.
Oh, I see what Walt's been doing while we've been talking.
Searching something else.
Well, as soon as he said, maybe if I had the novelization of Sweet Home Alabama, I was like, oh, that has to suck.
Oh, God. All right,
So-
let's get back to the minute. We got Hedley Lamarr at second 38 says, all right, now raise your right arm. And we get this shot of everybody raising their left arm. We've got Lyle, we've got Taggart, and we've got all the motorcycle guys and the other guys. And then we cut back almost exactly 20 seconds from where we saw him. The exact shot, these Nazi soldiers in the back of the wagon with the lead guy on the horseback, they all have their left arms up, and all of a sudden he says, right! And they all switch to the exact shot we just had 20 seconds ago. By the way, that flag that's waving is made up of a bunch of, it's like a hybrid Nazi flag that never actually existed. On it, it's got a swastika in a circle, it's got a red background, it's got a white slash, and it's got a black eagle, but there is no flag that I could find that was exactly as this. It's almost like they took several symbols from different Nazi flags and created their own version of one.
Interesting.
I didn't even see the swastika at first. I just saw that, like, the black eagle design thing.
Yeah, I had to keep pausing it.
Yeah.
Where's the swastika?
It's to the left of the eagle, just before the white slash.
Yeah, it has to blow a certain way. It's like right at 44, somewhere in the 44 second.
Oh, I mean, I researched this. I looked everywhere to see if I could find that exact flag. I went to Google and I said Nazi flags, flags of Germany. I could not find. I could find several similar flags, but nothing that matched this one.
Interesting.
That actually is interesting. I still don't see the swastika on there.
It's second 43.
Oh,
if you
is it
catch
in the white
That's
circle?
right. Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
white
It's
circle.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I see it now.
But they're not wearing it on their armbands. Or they don't have armbands at all,
Well,
but they don't
The
have
soldiers, they were not part of the SS. They're in brown. They're they're a standard German
infantry.
This is your World War II German regular infantryman uniform. They would not have had a swastika. They weren't part of the SS, which would have been your black uniform.
That actually was interesting. tidbit there.
So we now get the shot reestablished of these guys putting their hands up. We get the line.
Now repeat after me. I.
And they all can follow that one pretty well.
Your name. Schmucks.
Which is an ad lib. Not at all. As Hedley Lamarr hears them say your name, he just looks down.
I love the eye roll, the sigh, schmucks. Everything's perfect here.
And then says,
Pledge allegiance. To Hedley Lamarr.
That line, pledge allegiance to Hedley Lamarr, is where this particular minute ends. But we do have more of this pledge that these guys have to recite. But for you guys, that's going to do it for minute 78. It just ends right there in the middle of his getting these guys to recite a pledge. So I got to ask before we wrap up, I always do this when we have usually for the folks that are here for their last minute. Doug, I'll go to you first. In terms of just this film, you've seen it a lot. You wanted to be part of this minute. You were part of our first season. You said you really enjoyed this movie. Tell us a little bit about just in general, now that we've kind of discussed a few minutes of it, in general, the movie itself. Where do you think this falls in your favorite comedies and how it fits in society and or culture?
As far as favorite comedies, it's definitely up there. I said in my first minute with you guys this week that it was last week. Yeah, Friday. I do like Young Frankenstein better. That I didn't want to take anything away from this. I think I may have accidentally disparaged this movie in doing so, but I didn't mean to. I do love this movie. I think it's hilarious. I still laugh at it. Like I was saying, that the Mongol punch in the horse, that was one of the funniest moments.
That's great.
In cinema history. So yeah. As far as like what was the other part?
Like in your mind, where does this fit culturally in terms of, is it something that it was great in the 70s, but it doesn't fit today, or we don't need this movie, or this movie's kind of outlived its time? I mean, just kind of a comment in general about the film.
Let's see. I said that some of the comedy, like the way Mel Brooks overplays the governor, but the way you guys said it, like he did it intentionally to show like what goofy idiots, public servants in office can be. So that, I mean, that's, that made a lot more sense that he's overplaying that character intentionally. So it holds up. It holds up as a funny movie. I can't see kids, like young kids, getting into it now and appreciating it the way that, people did at the time in the 70s. I don't know if that says it, if that's more of a statement on society today than it is the movie. I think so.
Well, I can tell you, in some of our previous guests, we've had a couple of college age guests, and the two different ones, or actually three different ones that we've had, said for whatever reason, because of maybe they respected their parents for introducing it, or because they've got a sort of a wider view of what makes something funny. We've got some younger members of the season who said they really think it's a funny movie. Which, by the way, Walt, I think you felt the same way I did when we had some of our younger guests. Really gave us some encouragement that we picked this film.
Yeah, I was surprised. And, I think you alluded to this on Friday, that we're kind of having a hard time finding anybody who doesn't like this movie. I mean, I really at some point expected somebody to come on and go, I tried and I don't like it. And, here are all the reasons why.
What's wrong with you guys? Why would you pick such a hateful movie?
I'm
surprised.
So much work to be done.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are people out there who hate it, but I think if they sit down and watch it and think about what the movie is saying, that feeling would go away quickly.
I don't think you could make this movie today with today's culture.
But can you take this movie and show it today?
That's hard to answer because I think, I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. The world was different back then.
Well, okay, let me give you a different question then. would you like to see whatever's happening now today as we're recording this? Would you like to see the pendulum shift enough the other way that a movie like this could be understood to a younger generation?
Yes, I would.
Because I know I would.
We've gotten away, comedy in general has changed so much. Like, do you think that a Richard Pryor or George Carlin or an Eddie Murphy back in the day would be as successful if they started out? Like, comedians can't even say shit now. They get crucified anytime they touch racism, sexism, and you just get, you can get shunned.
Well, you say racism or sexism,
right?
Anything that can be easily labeled incorrectly as racist or sexist. A lot of times you hear a word and they shut down instead of saying, well, wait a minute, why are you using this? And not giving it a chance to evolve or listen to understand the context.
But also, comedy has changed so much that people, like I said, like the guys I just named, like, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, like Eddie Murphy Raw. Remember Eddie Murphy Raw came out? Like, I don't think that would do well if that came out today. Like comedy.
What's crazy, if you've named 3 of my probably top favorite comics of all time.
Well, they're, there's reason.
Good reason, yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. But nowadays,
I would throw Bill Cosby in there, but now you can't even say that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I can separate the comedy from the person, just like Michael Jackson. I can separate the music from the person.
Oh my God, dude! Holy crap! You're bringing. Did you listen to Opie and Anthony, Sam and Opie show?
No,
they were. Oh my God, they were having this conversation this morning about the whole Michael Jackson thing, and they said that exact same thing.
We end in the middle of Hedley Lamarr's pledge, but we're not going to be able to finish it. We're going to have to wait till tomorrow. But these guys are not going to join us tomorrow. I already asked Doug what his thoughts were about the culture of the movie and whether or not it fits into the culture of today. Jason, what about you?
This movie, this fits into, like, there was, a string of comedies years and years and years ago, like Blazing Saddles, History of the World, all the Monty Pythons. For some reason, I almost want to fit like The Jerk kind of into that same kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I could see that.
And it just, I think a lot of them wouldn't work now. I don't know. I don't want to say people are dumber. They won't get it.
You just did.
Like my wife. If you go upstairs right now, my wife. If you go upstairs right now and ask her what her favorite comedy is, she's going to tell you White Chicks, the fucking Wayans movie. Like, that's what you're dealing with. Like, you're dealing with. It's just, these are like intellectual comedies that you have to watch. You have to, like you guys said, you have to not be afraid of what they're tackling. They're tackling racism. You have to just not be afraid to watch it and deal with it and listen and take it in like it exists in the real world. You have to watch it and watch it for the real message that's in it, and you laugh along the way. And there's a lot to it. And I don't think that they don't make comedies like this anymore. And B, I think if they took these comedies and put them out right now, they would not be as well received as they were.
Well, I hope we can get to a point where I want that pendulum to shift back just a little bit, where we can have movies like this again, because I miss the smart comedies that can have its share of slapstick, its share of fart noises and silliness. But you have to know a lot to understand all of the jokes in this movie. And Walt, even you and I have discovered some jokes going through this, and I appreciate that. That's why I loved Young Frankenstein, diving into it 1 minute at a time. And I've loved this deep dive as well for season 2.
Yeah, me too. And I'll tell you, I keep every episode, I appreciate this movie more and more and more.
I don't disagree. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Guys, you guys have the Rocky Minute. You've got 2 seasons under your belt, but depending when someone stumbles across this, you've got a franchise you've picked, which means you've got several more movies ahead of you. So where can people go to get all caught up if they've just heard about you for the first time and they're like, oh, I love Rocky? Where can we go to get the Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 and whatever other Rockies you've done?
Well, you could download our episodes. All of our episodes are on Dueling Genre. You don't download them? You just listen to them? Okay. You can just listen to them. You should see the
Again,
look,
it's
the
Walt.
look he gave me when he
at
said
www.duelinggenre.
http:// the look he gave me when I said download was like,
Did you
if
at
I
least
said,
do it right? It's //.
so duelinggenre.com is where all of our episodes are of Rocky Minute. You can go in there. There's a bunch of other things you can listen to if you want to listen to other things. But that's where we are. If you listen to our episodes and you want to get in on some conversation about them, some dialogue about what you heard, what you like, what you didn't like, other things about Rocky, you go to our Facebook group, Mighty Mix. There's all kinds of things that pop up on Mighty Mix, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone related.
Somebody commented recently on an episode from early in season 1. So people are still now just finding the show and chiming in on Mighty Mix saying, hey guys, love the show. By the way, I had a thought about this comment that you made at episode 32 from season 1. And it's still.
Yeah, but isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? I mean,
100%.
I think that's fantastic. That means someone just randomly or heard about it or searched for it and found you. I mean, that's cool.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is it's don't think that, I'm getting in too late, I'm not going to comment on anything. Please do. Late. Please,
I love it.
Yeah.
And by the way, for folks who are listening right now, every podcaster that I listen to, every podcast so far, when I've reached out to their Twitter, their Facebook, whatever, they'll respond. I know I respond, Walt responds, you guys respond. So it's a real cool community to start making friends with.
Totally agree.
Walt, if somebody wants to get in touch with us, whether they've stumbled across Young Frankenstein today, they're in the middle of listening to Blazing Saddles, they've gone to listen to our Patreon content, regardless, they're like, I want to talk to these guys. How can they do it?
Well, probably the best place to talk to us would be on the Wilder Ride listeners group on Facebook. So you can go to facebook.com/The Wilder Ride and join our listeners group from there. If you want to download some of our episodes, you can find us on any podcatcher or other download source like our website at thewilderride.com.
And I would highly suggest if you've stumbled across these movies by minutes where we're breaking down a movie 1 minute at a time, having a lot of fun, talking about a lot of other stuff at the same time, there is an entire community. You can go to moviesbyminutes.com. That's where you can find the Rocky Minute. You can find us. You can find things like the Indiana Jones Minute, the guys that started it off, Pete and Alex, who were with us at the very beginning of season 2. They're the Star Wars Minute guys. You've got the guys doing the Mad Max Minute, Impossible Minute, which is Minute Impossible, Groundhog Minute, and just so many more. We can't name them all because that list gets bigger and bigger every day. Go to moviesbyminutes.com. And I would highly suggest y'all come back tomorrow. We want you to come back because we've got another minute to go. We're talking about minute number now 79 tomorrow. We'll have Stephanie Harris joining us. And we're going to start off with That's Hedley. And we're going to end with I've got an idea that'll slow him down to a... And wow, it seems like a lot happens between those two things. So come on back tomorrow for a Thursday edition of this, The Wilder Ride.
Well, I'm about to head out and stamp out runaway decency in the South.
I think this whole series of 4 episodes was a stamp out of runaway decency. Now I know what I look like 10 years in the mirror. I see where we were 10 years ago. We got Jason and Doug. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
And I'm so sorry to tell you guys, this is what you got to look forward to.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, comedy ain't pretty.
It's like 6 miles of bad road. All right, and Walt, are you rolling?
Oh yeah, I'm rolling.
Okay.
Sorry, I was watching somebody make lamb chops.
Are they crusted or not crusted?
No, these are not crusted.
Usually you crust those.
Yeah.
Wasabi.
Hey Doug, you want to start a
crusted.
podcast sometime, just the two of us?
Hey Jason, let's do a podcast.
Today's episode.
Mine and Alex will be very boring and on topic.
Here's the cool thing
Episode
about
is
the
lamb
Jason
chops.
Walt podcast. If you're not eavesdropping, you'll never hear it again. It won't be recorded. It won't be edited. It won't be saved. It's real live theater, man.
Neither one of us will show up.
You won't show up. Okay, here we go.
I was actually I was on Facebook right now, and
Clearly.
I saw this thing. I know you guys live down the south, and I saw this thing be on the lookout for inmates that escaped from North Carolina jail. And I was going to jump and be like, yo, guys, did you see it? It was actually Walt that shared it. and he shared it 1 minute ago. So he's doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. That's what this podcast has become. Doug and Alan are talking about fucking a movie or something. And I'm sharing on the podcast on Facebook that Walt shared a minute ago.
And I love how he called me Alon.
As soon as you said, I was looking on Facebook, I was like, oh, shit. I know what's coming.
So here we are, we're talking, and Walt's sharing shit, and I'm looking at it and reading it as he's sharing it on Facebook.
That's our
Me and
podcast.
Alan are talking about podcasting.
So I'm gonna just share stuff on Facebook, and you're gonna like it.
Hey, there you go. You found your niche.
Jason and Walt, a Facebook discovery.
Welcome to Facebook.com, where we look at one profile post at a time.
Oh my God.
So let's go ahead and dive right into this, because yesterday we were talking about... Are you guys still talking?
I just can't get over I can't get over
He's just laughing.
I can't get over the I don't know if it's not irony, like I can't get over the fact that like you guys have been talking up how me and Walt don't pay attention or whatever, and you guys are talking and the fact that Walt's so bored he's posting shit on Facebook, and I'm so bored I'm reading it.
That had to be the most perfect example of how these two podcasts work. Could have ever happened.
The parallels are mind-blowing.
There's no way we could have planned that. I mean, that was just
This is not a bit, folks. I swear to you.
Doug, all I can think of is, hold me.
If that had been scripted, we'd have screwed it up so bad.
No, there's no doubt. After listening to 2 seasons of Jason talking, there's no way he could have followed a script. Not at all. Jason, wait for my cue and then jump in. You're what?
All right, let's get back to the Blazing Saddles here.
Okay. Oh, okay. We'll do that for you now.
Now Jay's ready.
He's done. He's ready to leave.
Well, let's talk about the 5 inmates that escaped from the North Carolina prison. I want to get to the task at hand.
Okay.
I hate Illinois Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys. Wait a minute. We're doing Indiana Jones 3 now?
Yeah.
No, I was doing the Blues Brothers. I hate Illinois Nazis.
I'm adding to the conversation, but Doug, you know what this is like. I'm gonna have to cut all this.
All of it. Just mark the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning when you start it, and then
I'm gonna get Jason going, you know what? And I'm gonna end with, that was a great show.
let's bring it back.
We'll continue it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where we were so I can make a smooth transition.
Where Blazing Saddles
Good
fits into
luck.
the world.
Yeah, no doubt. Doug, make a note, and then when you go back and listen, then you come back to me and I'll teach you how to edit.
Okay. This is gonna take all your skills.
I'm gonna be like playing this one like a Stradivarius.
Eternal